Recording in progress.
Okay, Mayor, ready to start.
All right, I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
Thank you. Councilmember Woodard.
Here.
Councilmember Murray.
Present.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember McCardle.
Here.
Councilmember Sonmore is remote.
Yes, thank you. Attending remotely via teleconference.
Mayor Matsumoto Wright.
Here.
And Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Here.
Thank you very much. Next is the Hall Creek Restoration Amendment with the Army Corps of Engineers. Am I reading the right one?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Laura Reed. I'm the Stormwater Program Manager for the City of Mountlake Terrace. I'm here to talk to you about the Ballinger Park Hall Creek Restoration Project, and it's not the best news. This project is going to cost more than was originally anticipated. However, anybody who's been to the gas station or the grocery store knows that right now we're in a period of rapid inflation. And this project in particular is affected by the rapid inflation in the price of diesel, which has gone up 75% since November. This is a project which is fundamentally about transportation of large quantities of material, soil, rock, logs, plants, trees, materials for the boardwalk and the bridge, and all of those things are transported using heavy machinery that runs on diesel fuel. That's the primary driver for the cost increase. Other sources of the project cost increase are the 25% jump in the price of steel, which will be used for the boardwalk and the vehicular bridge, additional labor costs for tree planting, hydroseeding, and irrigation of the new plantings, and improvements to the boardwalk and bridge design for park users. These costs have increased significantly since the funding agreement with the Corps was approved in 2020 at the 30% design level. And as a result, staff is seeking City Council approval to amend the agreement with the Corps to reflect the increased costs. Although the project cost has increased since 2020, the overall impact to the city's original funding obligation is relatively unchanged. In 2020 and 2021, City Council successfully lobbied the Washington legislature for over $807,000 in project funding for this project, which covers approximately 95% of the cost increase. Just to recap, we are at the design is at 100%. We are now at the construction, monitoring, and adaptive management phase. The project is slated to break ground in 2023 in the summer. It will go through 2024. The estimated cost to the city in 2020 was $1,613,000. The updated cost to the city for the remainder of the project is $2,464,750. I just mentioned the grant from the legislature, which is $807,520, and the cost increase is $851,750. The estimated total cost for the project, including the feasibility study, is $8,425,000. The additional funding for the project is available in the Stormwater Fund, and if approved by City Council, will require a budget amendment of $851,750. The core bid procedures require that the city's financial share of the project be provided to the agency prior to going out to bid. The core cost amendment is not yet ready for review. It's an internal review within the Corps of Engineers, but the costs will not change, and I expect that the amendment will be ready in the next 2 weeks. Finally, I'd like to request that the council move to authorize the city manager to sign the amended agreement for the Ballinger Park Hall Creek Restoration Project at the August 1st City Council meeting. Are there any questions?
Still on. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Laura. I appreciate you coming to share that news. Definitely a little hard to read and digest. So recognize, I think, costs. Yeah, I think we've all seen costs increase. And we've also seen some of those costs start to decrease, particularly when it comes to fuel costs. I guess I'm curious if that trend continues. Like, is our cost a fixed cost, or is it a percentage of the actual outcome of the cost of the project? I'm just curious if that continues to trend down, how that impacts the costs that we're looking at and paying. Does that make sense?
Right. No, that's a good question. We are responsible for 35% of the project costs, and the Corps is responsible for 65%. So if they don't end up spending all this money, then it comes back to us.
Great.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
That's, Mayor, I didn't see you.
I just raised my hand.
Councilmember Ryan?
All right. Thank you. Well, we talked about if the costs go down. I can't see that happening, but what would happen if the costs go up?
I really, really hope they don't, because I do not want to come back to you again and ask you for more money for this project. I believe that now that we have 100% design, the cost estimating department at the Corps of Engineers has a pretty good grip on what they're anticipating the cost to be. And I think they're being relatively conservative in how much they think inflation is going to increase the cost between now and the time we start work. So I don't anticipate that would happen. However, it's possible.
Yeah, that was kind of looking the crystal ball. So, because things are not looking good right now.
Right.
Thank you.
Hey, Mayor Pro Tem Wall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Laura, for bringing this to us. It is, obviously, it's a great project. It's something we need to move forward with. So we need to suck it up. But it does have an impact on the rest of on the stormwater fund. Obviously, we're taking out almost $1 million more. So how does that impact the fund overall? What can we expect? Are we having to make cuts somewhere else? It's coming out of our capital piece of it that we have reserves, but I mean, are we having to reduce costs somewhere else? Are we having to make additional cuts somewhere else? Are we having to look at potential rate increases because of this down the line?
No, that's a really great question. I did a little bit of financial analysis of the Stormwater Fund. Previously, I thought we were going to have to go after bond monies to pay for this money. We didn't actually have to, and part of the reason for that is that since 2020, we have been bringing in quite a lot of capital facility fees from new development in the city. So we have over $605,000 that's come in from capital fees that we didn't anticipate because we can't really plan how much development is going to occur during a specific period of time. So I'm not worried about the health of the Stormwater Fund, even though this is an unexpected shock.
Okay, how much was it again, the additional?
The exact amount was $605,434.
Okay, so it almost covers.
It almost covers it, which I think is what it should be, this kind of thing where development pays for new amenities for the city. So that's, it's a good thing that we have these facility charges.
Okay, so the important note is that the financial health of the Stormwater Fund is still intact.
Yes.
For the most part.
Yes, I do not anticipate any rate increases resulting from this particular
Or other
change.
cuts or having to skimp somewhere else or something.
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay,
Yeah,
very good. Thank you.
sure.
Councilmember Ricardo?
Thank you, Mayor. Just in your staff memo on the chart you provided for us, just trying to figure out number-wise. I mean, in 2020, the estimated cost was 1.6 million. Yeah, updated in 2022 is 2.4 for an increase of 851,750. And then can we subtract out the grant from the state legislature and really only end up with a $44,000, $244,230 increase to the city? Or how does that work? Or do we eat
No,
the
that's a
whole
good-
851,750?
No, that's a very good question. We're talking about a lot of money over different periods of time. I did look to see, how much have we spent to date, minus the grants. We've spent $411,615. So that's for the feasibility study and for design and engineering, for which we got $194,000 from the legislature. So this is the net. The total cost to the project after grants would be $2,068,845. So that's all of our share
Okay,
after the grant. Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right. So this,
I was-
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Did you have your hand up there? I didn't look.
Oh,
ahead,
thank you.
Councilmember
It's all
Sonmor.
good. I'm sorry I can't be there tonight. I'll be with you all soon. Laura, I just had a few questions because this is really going to change the look of Ballinger, Ballinger Park. Sorry. I'm looking at all the different things that they're doing. Is there any way to remove anything from that list and then postpone it a little bit longer? I know we have, it's going to really change things and they're going to be reseeding and adding native plants, but is there something like maybe stopping the boardwalk for right now? But again, that protects sensitive areas. I was just wondering, is it possible to do a little bit in just phases so we don't, like Rick was saying, that costs are continuing going up. Inflation was all over the news today, and even parts are going up on all sorts of different things. And so I was just wondering, is there any things to keep our costs down? But you're saying that we do have the money to do this, and so we'll just go ahead with the whole entire project.
Well, I mean, there is the risk that if you wait longer, the costs are even more for the work. So that is kind of balanced against any potential savings. And I think we do really want that boardwalk because it's going to connect the east and west sides of the park. And if we're able to get it where somebody else is paying 65% of the cost, then it's sort of it's a net win for the city. So I wouldn't think it would be in the city's interest to try to parcel out different parts of the project and not do them all at once. It's the kind of thing where there's sort of a sunk cost in the amount of permits and the cost of mobilizing equipment out to the site, that kind of thing. And I think it makes more sense to just do it as a package and get it over with.
Thank you, Laura.
All right. I don't see any other hands going up. So the recommendation is to have this on the agenda on Monday night.
Yes, that's
All
correct.
right. Thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Whoops. All right, well, the next item on our agenda is a review of the resolution for a time-limited incentive program for childcare and recreational staff, or recreation staff. I see Jeff Betts, our Parks and Rec Director here. Okay.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I'm Recreation Parks Director Jeff Betts, and tonight I'm here to review with you a resolution for a time-limited incentive program for childcare and recreation staff. So it was last year, on June 6th, to receive authorization to apply for that grant for Department of Child, Youth, and Families Child Care Stabilization Grant, and that was meant to fund staff costs, recruitment, and retention as well. This funding is to address ongoing staffing shortages in licensed child care centers seen during the pandemic really around the country. So staff did since then apply for the funding and received it from the state. The allocation actually exceeded our expectations. And really that was because an additional $80,000 was allocated due to our proximity to population centers. So staff went back and adjusted those allocation amounts based on the same principles that we previously highlighted. So as a reminder, all funds have to be paid out in 1 year or by the end of June 2023. So quarterly amounts would be distributed for that grant to include for full-time staff, $3,000 per quarter, $2,250 for 3-quarter-time staff, $1,500 for half-time, and $1,140 for part-time staff. And then additionally, there would be dollars related for years of service. So 10 plus years of continuous service would be $1,000, $500 for 5 plus, and $300 for 3 plus. And as an example, same example I gave you last time, but just to be clear that a full-time employee then would receive $3,000 in quarterly payments, and if they had 10 years of service, would receive an additional $1,000 for a total of $13,000 over the course of the year. Staff also brought to you a recruitment and advertisement for new employees, and that was previously $13,000. We'd propose for that to be $17,900, which would be the rest of the dollars left in that fund. And this would help us really go out and actively recruit. We have one HR person, an HR manager for the city, who does not have time to do a bunch of direct recruiting. And we've really found that during the pandemic, what's worked best for us is some of our staff really digging in and inviting people to apply for jobs. And that takes a lot of time and effort. So if we have some of this grant money from the state, then we will be able to potentially have other people help us do that, would be the idea. So we also established some guidelines that would require employees to be on payroll for 2 complete cycles, pay cycles, and work a minimum of 5 hours per week. Also, no seasonal or temporary staff would be a part of the program. So that is the Department of Child, Youth, and Families grant program. So the idea we discussed previously was to extend that program to cover hourly aquatics, athletics, and sports staff as well, to assist, as well as to keep other employees from moving to childcare. Really, the thought would be instituting this kind of program that potentially a lifeguard would see that and say, I'm going to work in childcare because I could get this funding quarterly, these quarterly payments as well. But we're also having a difficult time achieving staffing numbers that we need. And this has been a nationwide problem as well in the pool. So you've heard on the news a lot of pools and beaches and things like that have been closed. It's really difficult to recruit lifeguards. And we've actually waived some other things that we've done in the past, like we want somebody to wait 6 months before they take lifeguarding that we pay for. Well, we've waived that for a couple of people recently because we really need lifeguards to be trained and be on duty. Somebody recently took that training and left as soon as they got the training under their belt that we paid for. So we're trying new things and it's not all working out, but we really think a program like this would assist us and really kind of balance things within the program. So most of these programs, including frontline staff teaching, registering participants, lifeguarding, swim instructors, most of them are making minimum wage or near that dollar amount, and they are on the front lines. So ARPA funds were one of the sources we identified, or the source we identified for this limited term program. And cost by program outlined in the memo would be $163,000 for youth programs, $146,024 for aquatics, $27,600 for athletics, and $59,402 for our support services or administration staff. None of these are for exempt staff. Exempt staff would not be included in this program as well, which is basically just the supervisors and myself. The revenue sources for this program would include that the 2 Department of Child and Youth Families grants, which is the workforce and program grant, and that's $163,000 and $145,000. And then the ARPA funding for this would be $88,026, which is actually a reduction from what I brought to you before because we received extra money from the state. So that total balances out at $396,026. So the staff recommendation would be at the August 1st City Council meeting, the resolution be adopted for this time-limited incentive program, and it could be accomplished as part of the motion to approve the consent calendar as well. Any questions of staff or of me, I guess?
Do we have any questions or comments?
I do.
Councilmember
Sorry, I
Solomore?
can't see everybody, so I don't want to interrupt. Now I can see everybody.
Councilmember Solomore, did you have a comment or question?
Yes, please. Jeff, I'm sure you've thought about this, but you know, like you said, with inflation on everybody's mind here, and looking at keeping employees, how do you plan on keeping the new employees that you tracked?
It's a concern. The program's only for a year. So after that year, I guess you're suggesting that what would happen. One of the things that we were looking at, and staff-wise, is looking at this next budget cycle is how do we compete with other programs, whether it's each division has their own competition. Each division is very unique between aquatics and dance and childcare staff. So really looking at that and trying to see what we could do for wages would be potentially one thing that we would talk about. If we wanted to expand a program like this, that was something that we could look at if council wanted to see something like that. So those are a couple of different ideas. I think that we offer, in general, we offer good benefits for employees, but a lot of our younger staff don't necessarily want pensions or even benefits sometimes. And so trying to think of other outside the box ways to attract people, I think would be important.
And Jeff, I want to close with the people that work up there are fantastic. I love going up there. I love using the services, and I'm just really glad we're able to do this for them. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you for your report, Jeff, and the information makes perfect sense. I wanted to double back to the paying for the lifeguarding class. Without getting into the dollar amount, I presume it's significant. And so I'm curious, especially under these new circumstances that you find yourself in, meaning that we might not ever get ahead of it to where we can afford to have people backlogged on the training, so we have to keep putting them in play. Have you considered one of the models to where it's, okay, we pay for this, but you have to stay on staff for X number of days, X number of months, X number of years, and kind of a forgivable loan percentage, if you will, and if you depart, which is your every right, no judgment zone, yes, there is judgment. Nonetheless, you pay a percentage back to us. That's a built-in incentive.
Yeah, we were discussing that today. So yeah, no, I think it's something we've talked about. I think we would probably want to come up with a policy that makes sense, that's adopted. But I think something like that would be good if we instituted, say, 6-month requirement to be employed, and if you aren't employed that long, then you have to pay us back whatever percentage or something similar to that is what we talked about. We normally just don't offer it for people that aren't here for 6 months, just for that reason, but.
All right. I don't see any other hands going up. So this is going to be on Monday night. And that's when we'll vote on it. I think this is great. I'm just really hoping that we can find a way at the end of the 1 year to do something so that we can keep everybody. So we'll look at the budget. All right, thank you very much. Next is it's going to be again with Jeff, I think. The review and approval of the Ballinger Park universally accessible playground budget.
Good evening again.
Go ahead.
Yes, so the Ballinger Park Universally Accessible Playground is a project that was conceptualized in 2015 as part of the master plan. And that was a $15 million park plan in 2015, which, as you heard, the biggest piece of it was probably the Army Corps project at Hall Creek, which was not that much, but it's not that far off from what was thought of. I think it was around $6 million project back then. So quite a bit's changed in 7 years. But Since that plan's been approved, which converted the golf course to a passive park, a 55-acre passive park, the plan was to include a playground on the east side of Ballinger Park, which is considered the active side of the park. If you remember the master planning process, we figured the east side has more of the active elements and the west side would be more passive and kind of a calmer area. So in 2018, we went about trying to make that happen, and we received a grant from the Recreation Conservation Office for $250,000 and a Hazel Miller grant as well for $250,000. And we add to that with some park impact fees to make the dollar amount work what we thought it was going to cost us. So in February 2021, we held some virtual public meetings, which was about a year later than we wanted to, but the pandemic delayed things a bit. And in June 2021, we took all that public information and provided it to a bunch of different playground vendors, and they came back with us a bunch of different designs. And in June 2021, the council awarded a contract to the King County Directors Association, which is a purchasing cooperative, for the Great Western Recreation Design proposal that located the playground about 100 feet north of the master plan's conceptual location. So just to talk for a second about conceptual. So the master plan itself is a conceptual plan, similar to what we have for Veterans Memorial Park. And when we think of ideas within the park, they're without any input of data. So we haven't done any survey work, we haven't done any geotechnical work to actually give us inputs into what makes sense for that element, whatever it is we're looking at. So, and similar to that would be the fishing pier. The fishing pier was originally the master plan, if you remember, located further to the north, but we did a bunch of work with the state, and we had a fish biologist from Fish and Wildlife out there doing all kinds of work on the lake, trying to find out where the fish were for us to help us. And we determined that moving that fishing pier would make the most sense design-wise. And this falls into the same bucket as well of the playground moving 100 feet north, is really just digging in. Once we got into a bunch of the survey work and geotechnical and permitting, everything pointed to this reality of it moving a little bit north. So since council approved that in June 2021, and that location and the playground was set at that time, so many unforeseen costs have arisen. I know it's a theme tonight, it seems like, but the original approved amount was $610,556, and that included a bunch of other costs, not just the playground vendor's cost, okay? It was the project cost. But some of the new costs include an increase in stormwater. Stormwater is about a $41,383 cost, and that's attributed mostly to new stormwater requirements that require drainage, any water that directly infiltrates through a poured rubber surface, that we need to treat that. We can't just have it infiltrate directly into the ground and go into the water system and cause coho mortality, is some of what the studies found. So really the idea, and we didn't know that before in 2015, the idea is that we need to treat that water, and to be able to treat it, we need some elevation for the water to flow from that drainage into a filtration unit, and then clean water comes out. And you can't do that unless you have a little bit of elevation, which this affords us, this location did. So those requirements also resulted in a stormwater plan designed for that drainage, upgrading the subsurface material, which we didn't have to do if we thought we were going to directly infiltrate it, and then conveying it, and then also that Filterra vault. So this delay, and then also the rising inflation and extra material costs, caused the price of the site work to increase also by $101,000. And then obviously the taxes have increased as well due to those things. But on the bright side, our permit fees decreased significantly as well as of yet. So far, about $15,000 they've gone down. So the total increased costs are approximately $141,000, and the total project cost of approximately $751,000 also includes a $50,000 contingency for construction. So without the contingency, we're expecting it to be around $700,000-ish right now. But that $50,000 gives us any contingency in case something happens when we're out there. So to offset those increases, we would utilize the full percentage amount that were allowed for park impact fees and increase that to $213,444, which was $111,000. And $41,000 from the CIP, which would be mostly to cover that contingency if it's required. So that project's next steps is there was a pre-construction meeting with the contractor and the subs held today, and then construction is expected to start within the coming weeks, depending on final contract information and gathering data that's needed from those contractors to get that going. So, and then also the next item, just to mention that a trail will be constructed almost simultaneously as the playground on that same east side to give access to the playground and runs from the senior center down to the parking lot and the boat launch. So that is my presentation. Staff's recommending that on August 1st City Council meeting as well, that a motion be approved for that $140,925 for the Ballinger Park Universally Accessible Playground. And it could also be done on consent if wanted to. Do you have any questions for staff?
Do I see any hands going up? Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jeff, thank you. Another exciting project that I think we're all looking forward to checking off the list. It's you know, the whole Ballinger Park is coming together. I remember when it was a dream, vision, turned into a master plan, and now we're actually seeing it come to fruition, and it's exciting. So again, something we're going to have to suck up the costs. We need to do it, but we need to, we're again going to see some impacts. So let's look at those additional costs coming from the capital improvement program and park impact fees. He said so those park impact fees, again, are, the additional $102,000 roughly, is it? So are we taking that away from something else in park impact fees? That was just additional dollars that we saw come into the program we hadn't budgeted for, and we're able to use it for this program here.
Absolutely, yeah. This year, there's been a lot of park impact fees received due to Terrace Station and some other facilities that we knew would come in, but we've had quite a bit come in a short amount of time. And everything that's slated that we've discussed for projects coming up is all intact and ready and available. So there's nothing that's being taken from.
Okay, great. And same thing with the capital improvement program. Those are additional funds that we have available that we weren't planning or budgeted for.
And I wouldn't want to speak for the city manager, but in talking with him previously that yes, there's funding for that.
Well, there's always funding in the capital program. It depends on how we want to spend it. But so this is additional funds that we had not previously budgeted. Is that correct?
That's correct. And Jeff does a great job of tracking impact fees and capital improvement project funds for parks. So he keeps a constant balance of what is anticipated to come in for future projects versus what has come in that can be spent. And so that's where he's identified the dollars are available for the project.
Very good. Okay, thank you. And I guess the only other question I have for you is, you know, we did receive some concern over the weekend from some of the residents in that area. And I think it is fair that we, I mean, 100 feet doesn't sound like a lot, so it just doesn't seem like it's going to have that much of an impact, but, you know, it did raise some concerns from the neighbors, and so is it something that we can at least go out to them and give them kind of this overview so they're at least given the opportunity to be in the loop on what we're doing and why we're doing it and hear them out, recognizing that it's a sound decision at the end of the day for what we had to do. I did agree with one concern as far as, especially if ADA being further away from the parking lot, how much, but I guess is 100 feet really going to have that kind of an impact on ADA accessibility, I guess, is a question that I would ask, but because I don't know. I just have no idea. But that did seem like a reasonable concern. But as you point out, there's sound logic behind why we made the move. And so it does sound like we need to at least give them the opportunity to hear the thought process behind that.
Yeah, I've recently returned from a vacation, so I've read those emails today. And
Welcome back.
thank you. And, my objective was to read through them, and I've done some of that and written some things down, but I figured that it would be best maybe if I was able to reach out to them directly. I think that would help. And I'm more than willing to talk to anybody that wants to talk about it. I think that would be good. But yeah, I think I've outlined some of the reasons why, and there's additional reasons I didn't go into, but there's definitely good reasons for that. And it sounds like there are some people concerned that there wasn't enough public notification of that. There was, we definitely do a lot of electronic, disbursement of our information. And then we also do, if something was approved at council last June and somebody wasn't paying attention, maybe they didn't know the location was moving 100 feet to the north. But, there's always new ways that we can try to approach that and try to get the information out to people, I think. So
I think they did request an audience. And so if we can at least give them that audience and give them the thought process behind what we did and why, we have a lot of studies and consultants were involved. And so just be able to share that with them and let them know that we do appreciate their input.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I don't see anyone up there either. So, all right. Thank you, Jeff. Next,
Thank
you're
you.
on again. Review of bids for the Ballinger Park Trail project. Oh, you're not on. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. My name is Donnell Diao, and I'm the Parks Project Manager for the City of Mountlake Terrace. I guess kind of piggybacking on the Ballinger Park theme tonight, I'm here to review the Ballinger Park Trail contract with Weiser Construction Company. As we've all discussed, there are improvements to Ballinger Park that have been in the works for years. Starting with, the development of the master plan that was approved in 2015, identifying many different areas and segments of the park for different passive and active areas. Some of the projects are in the works, such as the Hall Creek Ecological Restoration Project, as Stormwater Project Manager Laura Reed mentioned earlier. Last year, we had construction of a new fishing pier, boat launch dock, restroom improvements, and beachfront restoration that was financed with RCO funds. The next portion, as a part of that project, is the installation of the East Side ADA Trail. So there's a little figure in the memo. The East Side Trail has been identified, or the east side portion of the park has been identified as the active part. The ADA Trail is approximately 1,500 feet. It'll be an 8-foot wide asphalt path connecting the senior center parking lot, making connection to the playground, and then making a southern connection to the, what I would call the boat launch, Ballinger boat launch parking lot. It is ADA, so it will provide that access to the universal playground that we'll be installing as well. The engineering staff was from Public Works Department, were the ones that prepared the plans and the contract documents for the trail. We went out with an invitation for bids. on July 1st and had an electronic bid opening on July 18th, where we received 4 bids. After the bid opening, staff reviewed the documents and information that was provided via the electronic bidding service. During the verification process, the apparent low bidder was determined non-responsive and responsible due to the fact that they did not provide the necessary documentation to verify that they met the mandatory responsibility criteria. So we went through the process of notifying them that they've been disqualified. We moved forward with evaluation and verification of the second lowest bid, which was from the Weiser Construction Company. The total bid number was $296,548.85. After the verification process, they were determined a responsible bidder, and the bid did fall within the engineer's range between $200,000 and $300,000 for this segment, for this project. If authorization to go forward with this contract is provided, construction's estimated or anticipated to start immediately. This is, again, part of the RCO funding, which has a deadline, an upcoming deadline, as well as we want to look at weather for paving as well. We need specific weather conditions. So in order to take advantage of that, we are recommending that council move to approve the contract with Weiser Construction Company for the Ballinger Park Trail in the amount of $296,548.85. And with that, I'll take questions.
All right, do we have any questions? Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Janelle. Appreciate the presentation. So a little off topic, but it's part of the materials, and so I guess I'm just curious because I was not part of that master planning process. It was interesting looking at some of the features of the park that we had laid out in the plan, and curious if some of those are still, I guess, on our radar somewhere, particularly the covered picnic shelter. So yeah, I was just, and it's, if you don't have the answer, that's okay too, I guess, but I was just curious where we're at on some of these other, I guess, goals when we had put together the master plan initially.
Right. And I don't have the answer about the shelter specifically. However, my understanding is the next segments that we'll be looking at are the viewing platform as well as additional boardwalk trails to be provided. Those I think are the next portion of Ballinger Park improvements that we'll be performing and installing.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Betts?
So we have grant funds for that project, but there are other elements that aren't funded that we need to find money for. So definitely the south end of the senior center. Behind that, there's, in the conceptual plan, we don't really know what type of material it is, but it's supposed to be some kind of gathering area behind the senior center, a hard surface type area where people could have weddings, where there could be events, things like that, a gathering place in general. And then also there are other elements like the shelter. There's the splash pad further to the north. So some of these I feel like, yes, we could go get money for the splash pad and do it similar to what we're doing to the playground, but some of these we probably need to do some design work before we go get money, because I really have no idea what that area behind the senior center is going to look like without doing some, community, some community engagement and pre-design work. So I think those are projects in the future still, but yeah. And then there's one element down, down at the beach too. Originally we planned on some beach type steps to make it a better entry point to the water, and that hasn't happened yet. That was $1 million by itself originally, and so it's trying to group things together so they're able to be tackled, but definitely, we just need money. Yeah.
Very helpful. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thank you, Danelle.
All right. Anyone else? Councilmember McCardle?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question about, we hear a lot about supply chain issues, and I know in the contract or in your memo, it called out for, once they start, they have 30 working days to complete the project, as well as we're grant funded, and we're bumping up on that deadline. So if, and this is asphalt, if there's supply chain line, there's no asphalt available, are there little leeways or contingencies for that built into this, or we're just going to start it and hope it's all there and we'll get her done?
You
I know it's hard to,
the-
probably really hard to predict it. but-
Yeah, it's definitely hard to predict. The bidder or the contract provisions when it went out explicitly explained that there is 30 contract days and there is a deadline of September 30th. So my hope is that anybody that chose to bid on the process or on the project has worked through or at least thought about those concerns possibly. I'm not aware that there's flexibility in the funding portion to extend it. And again, we do start running into weather-dependent conditions for asphalt as well. So I'm not sure how we can address that up front.
Right,
but
yeah. All right, thank you.
All right. Oh, Councilmember Woodard?
Councilmember McCardle, your mic's still hot, just as a FYI. I thought Councilmember Murray was going to bring this up, so he went in a different direction. Help me understand. I know we've gone over this before about you have to go with the lowest bidder. So I clearly see New X and I can see A1 and I don't have my glasses on. That's amazing, the spread there. But when we step inside that, you tell me Weiser versus BB, I go, you're telling me $3,000, less than $3,000 is why we went with Weiser versus BB, which then I have to ask, who's the better company? Because that seems like a margin of error that I'm like, couldn't BB adjust if they're the better, I don't know who's the better company, but nonetheless, just thinking, when it's that close, it seems like other factors than cost should come into play, if you follow me. So I guess I'm asking, how do we know BB isn't the better? And if you had told them, hey, you're $2,900 over, it might be a different discussion. You want to reconsider this? I mean, I don't know, can we do that? I don't know, maybe that's a city manager question, but the point remains, I want to make sure when one of our residents asks us, why did you go with Weiser versus BB? Mine isn't because they were $3,000 less, when it's this amount of money we're talking about.
right. There are RCWs related to the mandatory criteria that determines whether or not a bidder is responsible and responsive in the evaluation process. Whether or not there's the ability to determine or to look at a second low unless you've disqualified the first, I'm not aware of a method or a way of doing that.
I see you're looking at me, so I'll throw in here. Yeah, Danelle's right. Under Washington state law for public works bids, we go with the qualified low bidder, which means they've got to establish that they can do the work, the qualifications, and that they are low bidder. And so in this case, which doesn't happen often, we disqualified the low bidder as not meeting the criteria for the bid. And that's why we're going to number 2. If Weiser did not meet the criteria, they would be disqualified as well. Now that said, under our contracts, and I don't know if it was included in this contract, but our typical public works contract language has a caveat that we can waive irregularities in the bidding process. So we typically don't rely on that because we don't want to get in the middle of a contentious issue between contractors claiming, well, I was qualified, but you gave it to somebody else. So In those cases, if we can't objectively identify that a contractor has been disqualified and move on to the second lowest bidder, we will at times scrap it all and go back out to bid. In this case, and I'll follow up with the council to verify this, I'm going to say that as Jeff and Donnell pointed out, New X was not qualified, so they were disqualified. Wiser qualified and the next lowest bid, so under law, we go with them. And we'll follow up that with you as well.
Okay, thank you. So that will be true even if there was a dollar difference. All right, thank you.
May I continue?
Go ahead.
Since we started football camp, I'm just going to say, what I really hear us saying is we have the state determine what's quote-unquote qualified, not the city of Mountlake Terrace, right? Because what I hear is, well, if they said, since football just started, that you only need to have high school experience, but we've got an NFL player that we want to go with who's in third place versus a college player who was in second place, we're going with a college player. That's kind of how it feels. So it's just one of those, I'm like, that seems weird that our hands are tied and there isn't some wiggle room, percentage difference, but I guess that's a legislative question, not a Parks and Rec question, so never mind. But just wanted to make sure we said it so our residents at least know hands are tied. So doesn't mean Weiser isn't great, I'm sure you are, but at the same time, if BB was better, I think we should have the right to consider that when it's that close of a difference, but that's Steve Woodard, I guess.
We just have to follow the rules. Thank you. Do I see anyone else's hands going up? Okay. Laura, you didn't have, I don't see your hand going up.
Oh, I just want to say nice to meet you, Donnell, and welcome to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we're done. Thank you very much. Next is public comment. City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Mayor. Did you want to speak tonight? No? Okay, I'm going to open up to the Zoom audience. And we have a regular out there, but I have a feeling she's not going to speak tonight. If you want to raise your hand on Zoom and speak to the council, you have 2 minutes to speak tonight. Going once, going twice. No public comment tonight, council.
All right. Thank you very much. Next is the review of the August 1st agenda. Apparently, it's now on there. So has everyone looked at it? And if so, does anyone have any comments about it? Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Wall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did notice that, of course, it's all topics that were generally topics presented tonight. But I noted during the presentations that it could be accomplished through consent agenda, but it's not listed as, under the consent agenda currently. So I just wanted to clarify, I guess, which items will be under the consent agenda and which items will be voting on separately.
Right. If you'd like to move any of those items to consent other than number 9, the first quarter financial report, if the council is comfortable with that, you can do that. We didn't put them on there simply because we didn't know if you would want additional conversation Monday night on any of those. If we weren't able to answer your questions this evening, but it's up to the council how you would like to address those.
Does everyone tonight feel that they've been heard? Have all the questions answered? Councilmember Ricardo?
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, I feel like I've been heard and I'd be okay with putting on consent. But then is number 9, how tentative is number 9? And would that leave us with just show up?
This will be our next 8-minute
It'll be like
meeting.
an 8-minute meeting or how? I mean, I guess that would be my only thing. If we're gonna meet and it's, highly tentative that number 9 will not happen, then let's keep them like they are and I mean, make it worth our time for showing up,
Or just all zoom in.
or just all zoom in, yeah.
No, that's right. So we'll have the first quarter financial report available for review. Also want to introduce the council to our new finance director, Janella Lewis, at the meeting and provide that overview. We've had the report reviewed by our finance director, Janella, as well as an outside consultant. So it will be available for your review Monday. Now, you may want to, I was just talking with the city clerk about recommending canceling Monday's meeting because of National Night Out the following day and all the work involved in that. However, I believe the contracts that are on the agenda need approval sooner rather than later so we can take advantage of the construction season. So the only if the council would prefer canceling Monday's meeting, then I would request that you approve the items on Monday night's agenda this evening so that we can move forward with those. So that's what you'd be looking at.
Can we do that?
So that's kind of your options. Go forward with Monday for a financial report or cancel Monday, which means approving those items this evening. Council's choice.
What would the council like to do? Councilmember Sonmore, is that? Go ahead, Councilmember Sonmore.
I'm comfortable voting on anything during work session. Can we have, I know the suggestion was out there, can we have Monday night's meeting through Zoom and do it through our normal session of council meeting? Because we do want to have staff have enough time for National Night Out. I don't think the meeting's going to take very long. I would like to meet our finance director in person, but maybe we could do it next time.
I'm looking at you to see.
This will be an educational moment, a refresher course for the council. Any meeting that the council has established under the code is considered a regular meeting. So that includes your work study sessions on Thursday evenings, your Monday night meetings, and any meeting from Monday or Thursday that that moves because of a holiday. So work study sessions are considered a regular meeting, although we typically refer to them as something other than that. So you can take action at a work study session.
Yes, we voted on many things in the past on the work study session.
I'm sorry?
I remember voting on things in the past during work study sessions, so yes, you're right. So what would the council like to do? Does this mean we're going to cancel the Monday meeting if we vote on it tonight?
You would. I would suggest your first motion be something similar to approving each of those items on Monday night's agenda. And if those do not pass this evening, by default, I would ask the council to go forward with Monday night's meeting. If all those items, especially the construction contracts, pass this evening, I would then recommend the council cancel Monday evening's meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm comfortable voting on all of these tonight just to get them over and done with. My only question is, and I'm assuming that the answer is no, but public notice for any of these. I mean, some items require public notice, others don't, and I'm assuming that these do not, and we're safe in voting them through tonight?
Right. So you'd want to first add them to tonight's agenda, the approval of these items. So if you look at Monday night's agenda, you have approval of minutes, approval of a work order with RH2 Engineering. You have approval of an amendment with the Army Corps of Engineers that you reviewed tonight. You have the approval of or award of Ballinger Park Trail Project and adoption of resolution for, we're going to move that off of there. Oh, resolution for time-limited incentive program. And so adding all those to tonight's agenda, then you would take action. If they all pass, you could then cancel Monday.
With the exception, Mayor, of the minutes, because they're not presented
Okay.
to you yet. And I can read in the claims number if I find the email.
So the, with the exception of the approval of the payment of claims and the minutes of June 16th work study session and June 30th work study session.
Pardon me, Mayor.
I'm
I
looking.
would ask that you approve the claims, because we have checks that need to go out, and I can,
Oh,
since we
okay.
don't have a council bill ready for you yet, I can read it to you for the record.
Okay, so
You have it there, and I have it there.
is everyone comfortable with doing this tonight? We'll go with that first. I see 3, 4, well, we already have 4, 5, 6. All right, so then we can go ahead and approve. What did we have to do first?
Mayor, I think it would be appropriate to first make a motion to add those items to tonight's agenda, and then once that passes,
Who
you
would
can
like to
take them
make it?
individually and vote on them.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a follow-up question. Can we approve them in one motion, like a consent agenda, or do we need to vote on each one separately?
Add them as one item.
If you were to add them as one item, technically, I believe you could. However, out of an abundance of caution, I would recommend that you vote on each one individually, just so there's no misunderstanding that you're approving each one.
Okay.
And also, if a council member was supportive of, was not supportive of one or the other, that would provide them the opportunity to vote either way.
Okay. Then I'm
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Wall?
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we add for consideration on tonight's agenda, the approval of payment of claims, the approval of work order for RH2 Engineering for permit review and engineering standards, the award of bid for Ballinger Park Trail Project, the approval of amendment with Army Corps of Engineers for Hall Creek Restoration, and the adoption of resolution for a time-limited incentive program for childcare and recreation staff.
Second.
All in favor? Can I do that without the roll call? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so then,
Pardon me, Mayor. Director Betts just reminded me we need to add the playground item also to the agenda. If you can make one more motion to add that item.
did we not cover that?
To
Oh, that's it.
clarify, the playground is just an informational item. We'll bring back a budget amendment for your consideration, unless I am corrected by our Rec and Park Director and others. All right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall, did you have your hand up?
I'm sorry, so did you, I'm just looking, you mean approval of item, tonight's agenda, item 5. I did not include that in the, and you'd like me to add that? Or that's not necessary?
We do not. That was a review this evening to enable the council to see that it will be coming forward to you in terms of a cost increase, but you've already approved the contract to go forward with the work previously.
Okay, so we don't need to amend the,
So we've approved the contract, but we don't need to approve the.
Correct. We'll bring you the budget amendment later.
okay,
Oh,
all right, very good. Well then, in that case, I'm prepared to start moving items
okay.
for
Start-
votes.
Start with the first one.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the payment of claims.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Mayor, I think I should probably read the claims numbers in since the bill is not posted, so it's official, and I have them on my screen if
think
that
we
would
have
be
it.
okay with the council. Okay, payment of claims in 2022 expenditures in the amount of $962,709.18 for payment on August 2nd, 2022. Check numbers 80350 through 80448. Additionally, payroll for July 20th, 2022, check numbers 583404 through 583426, and direct deposit totaling $343,490.91.
That.
Then do we do this over again?
Now, I think now you can go ahead and vote. I didn't hear the vote very, very loudly. If you could please repeat that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve a work order for RH2 Engineering for permit review and engineering standards.
Second?
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to award the bid for Ballinger Park Trail Project.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve the amendment with the Army Corps of Engineers for Hall Creek restoration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
One more.
One more. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to adopt a resolution for the time-limited incentive program for childcare and recreation staff.
Second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And I think we accomplished all of that.
That was all of them, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
So we
very
need
much.
another motion to cancel the meeting?
Yes, please. Also, after that, we'd like to remind the council of National Night Out on Tuesday.
Hopefully, we will all be there. So, Mayor Pro Tem?
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to cancel the August 1st City Council meeting.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. So our staff can work hard getting ready for National Night Out. Thank you.
And we'll,
Next on our agenda, oh, hold it, which one am I looking at? Is council comments. Does anyone have any council comments? Councilmember Woodard?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, thank you. I would have waited to Monday, but since Monday was canceled, let me make sure we do this today. I cannot thank the Smith family enough, and if I remember correctly, that's Tisa, Scott, Judy, and their granddaughter, Sam, who I believe flew in to work this, and that's where I'm really putting the thank you. I spent, I think, maybe 2 hours helping them pack up, which was not significant at all, and I still feel it. And I don't know if you noticed, I'm a pretty good-looking dude and a pretty big guy, and I'm telling you, I was using muscles I forgot I had. They not only did the setup, the maintaining, I too am just looking at email and see some of them played bouncer and potential remove a gun. Scott, don't do that ever again, please. But nonetheless, and cleanup, which is absolutely astounding because it was really the four of them and a handful of other people. That noted, on the cleanup day, we asked people if they could come out, and a handful of people did step up to that plate to help, so thank you for that, myself included, of course. But again, I just don't think people can truly appreciate the amount of work that went into that smile that was on your face and that joy that was in your heart, because that was an awesome weekend, the entire weekend. But I'm telling you, at the end of it all, in the beginning of it all, 4 people were really responsible for that. And if I'm excluding anybody who blood, sweat, and tears, city staff, thank you as well. Again, I got to go back to that Smith family and just say we really owe them a debt of gratitude for bringing something back that easily could have laid down and said, oh, well. That said, I would encourage us, before we get to next year, to figure out as a community how to get more than the Smith family out there to help. I'm going to figure it out from my personal space, how to get that done on my own docket. But at the same time, if anyone, an hour would have made a difference, and I promise you it did make a difference. But just putting that out there, thank you so much to the Smith family for everything that you have done and to keeping this tradition alive and inspiring. So, end the comments.
People don't realize that for 20-some years, they've been doing that with some help.
30.
Sometimes not a lot of help, sometimes a lot of help. But for 20-some years, they've been doing this year after year. It's incredible. Anyone else with comments? Council comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go first, Laura?
Oh, I was going to piggy off of back of what Steve said, but I would truly, truly like to see a contract with the city and the Smiths and just have it project managed out. And I think that's something we should task the city with doing on their other certain improvements, just to protect our city and protect everything that's going on, how times are changing, and make sure we're protected for the future is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick reminder that Tuesday is primary election day, so make sure you drop your ballots off between now and then.
And it's right across the parking lot from right here. Okay, do I see any other hands going up? City Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. If the council's finished, going back to National Night Out, there is a council booth. And I would like to divide it up into 3 50-minute shifts, if possible, so you could staff the booth for a shift, and then the other rest of the 2 hours you can enjoy the festival. So I've got 3 shifts: 6 to 6:50, 6:50 to 7:40, and 7:40 to 8:30. And one of you has another commitment role in that event and signed up for the first shift. So if the other 6 of you could let me know what your preference is, I'll try to work that out. Also, a reminder to you and to the community, this year we're doing a food drive at National Night Out. It's new, so it might be a little slow the first year, but the staff's going to participate in that and hopefully help out because all the food banks are hurting. So we want to maybe start that as a tradition, and that was suggested by one of our city staff members. So we've added that this year, and we're also going to include the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission as well. If you're on the first shift, we ask that you maybe show up a few minutes early, and if there's any particular visuals or anything you'd like in your booth, let me know. Right now, we're planning to have the 2 visuals that were at Tour de Terrace. So that would be the Ballinger Park and Veterans Park Master Plan graphics.
All right, Councilmember Ryan.
And the city clerk, Virginia, could you just add me to any one of those
Sure.
time slots?
Thank you.
I'll be up there. Thanks.
Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. Can we sign up now so I don't forget later? I would take either of this. I can't do the first, but I could do the second or the third.
Second or third, okay.
Go ahead, Councilmember Woodard.
Just a quick question. I recall us standing on stage at some point being introduced. Is that still part of the plan?
It is not. We have removed the stage. We had problems getting a stage and then programming the stage, so we have substituted something called the Fun Zone, and that's where the cornhole with the cop and some of the other activities will be. So you'll just be roaming the field. And new also this year, just confirmed 2 or 3 days ago, Home Street Bank is sending Miss Home Street, their hydroplane, along with their driver, and that boat and their driver are in first place nationally, and they will be on 224th with the vehicles. So that's exciting news, and that's going out tomorrow in our news release. Teresa, you're gonna get that out before we will. Put it out tomorrow, please.
All right. Okay, I don't see any other people with their hands up. Okay, so, great. So we have no meeting next Monday, and our meeting ended tonight at 8:16. So next on our agenda, next on our agenda is adjournment. We're adjourned. I don't have a thing.
Recording stopped.